Prepare for an inspiring night of insights, connections, and game-changing conversations. I'm Ruth Nelson, founder of BYOP on the Go, and it's an honor to host this special episode of In the Know series. Jayden, a former BYOP player who has grown into a remarkable Sam Houston State University College student, is joining me as co-host. Jayden shines in academics, or at least she does so far, and she is preparing some exciting questions to guide tonight's discussion. This evening, our guest is an American volleyball coach, commentator, and podcaster with 25 years experience across high school, club, NCAA, Division I, II, and III, and the professional beach scene. He's also spent nearly a decade calling matches as a play-by-play and color commentator. A former college and overseas player, Jason's journey includes military service, theater performance, which we'll see that tonight, I know, and work in the healthcare administration. Born in Brooklyn and raised in New York City, his life reflects a blend of grit and growth. He started working at age 14, later giving back through prison ministry, and proudly served in the U.S. Army. After moving to California, he helped turn around beach programs like LMU, Evolution, and Endless Summer, producing 13 Division I commitments in 3 years. Now at Los Angeles Volleyball Club and active in the beach scene, he leads with a passion, purpose, and heart. We're thrilled to have you as a guest. Welcome, Coach Jason.
I'm very, very glad to be here. I would like to cite that Evolution Volleyball was indoor boys. That was the only exception, and everything else is pretty much beach. Since I moved out here to the mean streets of Hermosa Beach, California.
All right. So before we dive into engaging evening, this promises to inspire and inform our viewers. Let's set the stage with a short video, which you might have already seen already. And interesting enough is Jason was mentored by a good friend of mine who coached with the U.S. women's national team, Mario Trevich. And we picked some highlights from Jason's coaching. That was just a recent podcast we did, a short one, right, Jason? 3 hours and 14 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it brought new meaning to the term long form, didn't it? In an already long form format. I think we broke the record, Ruth.
Well, you know what? I don't mind breaking the record once in a while.
Yeah, well.
So if we want to get started, Jayden, you want to get started with your questions?
Yep. So first question I have for you is, you've coached at every level from high school to professional beach volleyball. What's one coaching moment that stands out as a turning point in your career?
One of the things that stands out in my career is I was coaching a team called Hunter High School, and prior to that, I was coaching, some of the CUNY schools. I was a head coach at City College, an assistant at Baruch, and the interim head coach at John Jay College, and as well as City Tech, a program I built from the ground up. But when I coached high school boys, I had a coaching style where I had something to say every play, right? And Hunter High School was what you would call a smart kid school. It was a school that at the time led the nation in cumulative SAT scores and Ivy League application acceptance. And it's all 12 years. That's why you won't see it in the rankings, because it's grades 1 to 12. And they're so smart and they get the details right away that I stopped saying free, come over. Let's, come back. I sat down and I said nothing. And if it could wait for the timeout, I just made notes. And during the timeout, I started, we went over the notes. If someone's out of rotation, of course, I'll be like, hey, let's go, come back. But something I learned, and one thing that really changed my coaching career at every level was this smart kid school where less is more. Less is more, right? And I don't devalue the art of some coaches where they're on the sideline and they're kind of directing traffic, but there are also coaches that through process and preparation, the kids don't have to keep doing this. Right. And if the more they're doing that, the less they're looking at the net. So you take into consideration, and this is, volleyball players are not a monolith, but if you take into consideration that these kids might not need that much direction, one of the most valuable things I learned, and that was in year that was 2000. I guess I was there from 2011 to 2015, but somewhere in that the end of that first year, less was more.
Mhm.
It was terrific. Terrific discovery because now I can coach any way I want.
Excellent. All right, Jayden. That was he knows how to be brief. Don't think he doesn't.
No, you know,
So,
when you've done everything, admitting your vulnerabilities uh, is liberating because you don't care, you know, right? It doesn't hurt your brand. You're if you're you know you're kind of already there.
so next question. You've been doing play-by-play and color commentary for nearly a decade. How has your coaching background influenced your approach to broadcasting volleyball?
Well, that's a very good question because I think almost every coach, every decent coach, for color commentary can be something we call a color commentator, right? Now, if it's a two-person group and you have a play-by-play guy, you have a guy that's kind of like setting up your analytical. If you know X's and O's, and if you have good public speaking skills, and if you have a setup guy, which is so important. I've done some broadcasts by myself, and there's always this little thing where you feel a little bit, like undressed, and then you have to like regroup and realize, okay, I got to do this and that. And my degree in theater performance helped. I was part of a program at Marymount Manhattan. Their theater program at the time was ranked number 2 in the country. So everywhere I go, there's top 5, right? So, but yeah, so my degree in theater performance helped me as a play-by-play person, and the rare occasion I had to do that, take you on the journey,
Uh,
know when to take beats, watching the game, knowing the audience wants to really, see that part of the game, and then in some of these heightened moments, you might take them, for the game, Corey, it galvanizes them. So the ability to get them interested, and once they're there, kind of play with, do you want to take it further, or did you take it as far as you can go with this game? Because the players have an obligation to entertain the people too, right? I mean,
mhm.
one must participate in one's own salvation here. Uh, um, yeah, so did I take it as far as I can go? Do I need to go further? And that's where I think the skill of studying it, making mistakes, making yourself feel like an idiot, right? Doing really good things, uh, taking constructive criticism. Sometimes you really don't want to read the comments section if you can help it because it's, if you're like hypersensitive, every little, you get 19 compliments and get one bad thing, and you're like, you know, what a bad thing, so. I guess to answer your question, I gave you a little bit longer one, but I can wrap it up by saying that know which game you're watching. For sure, know the bios on everybody. That
Ah,
you have to have that as a as filler. And realize, humble yourself as an active player and coach, and say these are two different occupations. Don't
excellent.
feel don't feel entitled that just because you can coach and just because you know volleyball that you can do this. And that's why I think a lot of players who become color commentators
Mhm.
and a lot of coaches fail. They have more of respect to what they bring to the table and less of a respect to the size of the table and the food that's being offered.
Okay. All right. So now you were born in Brooklyn and raised in New York City, where your
Yep.
family emphasized academic and urban education. How has that dual influence shaped your communication style and leadership in volleyball? And should we say for West Coast volleyball or East Coast volleyball?
Well, I mean, it's really hard surviving the mean streets of Hermosa Beach, California. There we might be talking about two different rough neighborhoods, right? So, I'm not gonna lie, Brooklyn's, Flatbush Avenue at the time was a rough place to play. At the time,
Yeah.
the first 8 years of my life, I lived in Coney Island, and Coney Island was so dangerous, we moved to Flatbush. So let that like swirl in your head a little bit, right? So my real father I never met. So my mom, single mom, real father left her with $1. So she had to use that dollar and go on welfare, and she was on welfare for 3 years until, she got a full-time job as a legal secretary, and then she went back to undergrad school and became a paralegal, and then eventually went to Fordham Law School, and she has a law degree but never took the bar. She was making really good money as a legal
Wow.
secretary, and fantastic money at a law firm called Paul Weiss, big firm. And she was basically the whole time while she's doing that, I'm just trying to survive on the street. I'm just trying to get from school and back. You're looking for friends to play with, and Flatbush is a very diverse neighborhood, and Brooklyn in general. You have to. I was in this environment where you had to stand up for yourself in the face, and if someone picks on you, you're just like, okay, like we got to fight, and maybe I'm gonna lose, maybe I'm gonna whatever, but you make someone respect you, and then 3 months later you're playing baseball together. It was, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to get into this code of the hood stuff,
Right.
but I will say that just being having good social peripheral vision helped me survive on the street, helped me avoid situations that other people would get in trouble with. So that's my first education. And
Uh-huh.
my mom knew that having at least a bachelor's degree, like no one was going to hire you without a BA or BS. So getting two educations, as the movie A Bronx Tale, with Robert De Niro and Chaz Palminteri said, two educations will get you a long way, because everywhere you work, they will see that you bring something more. You bring an it factor that makes you not just a survivor, but someone where whatever someone says to you, whatever obstacles come at you, you see coming a mile away. Something that a bachelor's degree and a master's degree can't
Yeah.
give you. They can't give you early warning symptoms. They can't give you social behavior. They can't give you things that you see that you're like, all right, this guy is being nice to me, but he wants something, right? Or this guy is being nice to me, but maybe he's a mensch. In Brooklyn, we call that a mensch is when someone does something for nothing. A mensch is
Uh-huh.
when you and I, when neither one of us, when you don't have a shirt and it's cold, I'll take off my shirt, unaware that I'm going to be freezing, but impulsively I saw you cold and it was the right thing to do. So
Mhm.
don't know
Well,
if I
how's
answered
that?
the question, but I think,
No, that's,
yeah.
but how do you think that's all affected your leadership in volleyball now that you've moved to the West Coast?
Well, and the West Coast was really throwing myself in the deep end, and either I can swim or I can't,
Yeah.
right? Because on the West Coast, I moved here 2016. I started coaching 1998. So however that math works out, that's how many years of coaching experience, college, not pro yet, but just
Uh-huh.
college and high school.
Yeah.
I had coming in, but they don't care. So
Right.
I had to start over. So, and I mean, to put this in the 60-second summary, I bought a camera and I started taping the games and started talking behind the camera,
Ah,
breaking down games. And the comment section is like, "Oh my God, this guy's really, really good." Or the comment section is like, "Oh, this guy doesn't have any idea what he's talking about." But my point is that the feedback, they cared enough to
yeah.
like, cared enough to dislike me. And then Casey Jennings, Kerry Walsh's husband's like, "I like this guy. He's got BALLS.
Yeah.
We want you to work for us at FIVB or not FIVB, P1440."
Yeah.
They auditioned me in Vegas. They gave me court five. I called the entire weekend, and as a one man show,
Wow.
you know, no setup guy. So I had to call that, and my shining moment was court one closed down, and there was only one court happening, and the only
Ah,
place to see it was on NY Varsity Sports, and it was the
wow.
Canadians, the silver medalist, Brandy and Wilkerson and Melissa. At that time was Heather Bansley against
Yeah.
Kelly Kalinsky, who was Kelly Larson, and Emily Stockman, also known as two jacked girls, just like a, a 12 pack or a 14 pack of abs between the both of them. So I started doing that. And then the next thing you know, I'm doing get notice showcases for beach volleyball national events. And
Yeah.
then during all of Pepperdine's home games. And then I called the Big West Championship went to the deciding pair with Cal Poly against Hawaii. That was Todd Rogers. And I don't know who the head coach of Hawaii was, but his assistant coach was a New Yorker like me. So, I was very familiar. I could, I could chat about things, tournaments that he played in because he's a
Yeah.
Long Island guy. Yeah.
So
So,
your leadership in New York helped you to get to California. But
yeah,
let me
the
talk a little
leadership
bit.
was already there though.
Yeah.
the leadership, the initiative was already there.
All right. So you've volunteered though with prison ministries in Brooklyn, speaking to inmates at Rikers. How has that experience impact your approach to coaching and mentoring athletes?
Well, that's very, very good. But I do want to how can I say, clear up some things about that. I started the prison ministries because I was singing on choir because I'm a natural
Ah,
singer. I was singing choir for a church called Coney Island Gospel Assembly. Now,
okay.
this church is an Assemblies of God church and a Pentecostal church, so uh, uh, everything you see or hear about people raising their hand, speaking in tongues, doing backflips up and down the aisle, and like praising God for like 45 minutes before the sermon even starts. That was the kind of church I went to. So we would go to Rikers Island and whatever to sing Christmas songs during Christmas and
Uh-huh.
Easter during Easter. So we had a prison ministries that
Yeah.
was men only. I mean, we can call it sex and whatever, but we made this rule that only the men can do it, and it was 5 or 6 in the morning. And unofficially, well, officially, you had to be 18 years old. So,
Okay.
and at that time, I was 16. So, the prison ministries is something I never mentioned because I wasn't supposed to be there. I was 2 years younger, but my father was okay with it. My stepfather, who was an
Uh-huh.
iron worker,
Right.
my mom married, second time when I was 10, but so this blue collar guy was like, "No, come talk to people. They'll appreciate it." My dad's like, "I don't watch sports. They might want what if someone wants to talk about basketball? You're a Knicks fan. What if someone wants to talk about baseball? You're a Don Mattingly head." So the prison ministries were important because you didn't go there to talk about Jesus per se.
Right.
It was, I mean, it's Jesus. I mean, at the time, it's God's work, and you're only second if it's God first. So that's how the rhyme
Right.
works. Um, but maybe we want to talk about sports. Maybe we want to talk about, how George Steinbrenner goes through managers like Donald Trump goes through, spouses or like girlfriends. Maybe we want to talk about why being here is not such a great idea. So I wanted to clear up that officially I wasn't listed under the prison ministries, and technically I shouldn't be talking about it now, but this was 1986 to 1988. Um,
Okay.
and at this point, nobody cares. What are you gonna do? There's a statute of limitations on that crime
All
being
right,
committed.
Jayden, go with your questions. We're
Yeah,
now off the ministries.
right.
So, after serving in the U.S. Army and receiving several honors, what core values from your military experiences still guide your day-to-day work in coaching and broadcasting?
Being on time is
Ah,
gold, right?
Mm,
You can play for a coach, and I'm sure you play for many coaches with and in and out of Ruth. There's a value in just in being the first one there and the last one to leave. There's value in that because it shows that you care. Respecting other people's time,
mhm.
and not just your own. In volleyball, which is the ultimate team sport, in fact, which rivals men's football. I can't think of a sport as far as cooperative mode that really, really requires everybody, right? Like baseball, you could stick the person that you're not interested in right field. Basketball, you could just play soft zone. Volleyball, the higher the level you play, if 11 out of the 12 people are good, the 12th person's going to stick out. So,
Mhm.
the what I learned from the military is that coming on time helps, showing discipline helps, taking care of your body, realizing your body is your temple, taking care of your mind, knowing that the mission comes first. The mission becomes before your feelings. You learn that in boot camp right away, which is why anyone you ever talk to, like during a wartime situation, you're scared to death going in the army, but by the time they get out of boot camp, they're like, Just give me a spear. I don't need a weapon. Give me a spear. Where is he? Where's Saddam?" Right? I can do it. Just a spear. That's all. One shot, one throw, one javelin throw from New York City to Baghdad, and this war is over. So the army instilled a lot of confidence in me, and it got rid of. I can testify that I don't have an ounce of fear.
ah,
Not 1 ounce of fear. Flatbush helped taught me a healthy fear, but I didn't really want to fight anybody. When you walk around 250, you always think you're going to hurt someone, right? And you'd rather get hurt than hurt someone. But so unless I saw someone getting bullied. I never really wanted to fight anyone. I see someone getting bullied, it makes me angry.
Mhm.
And that the army taught me that. I have zero fear. There's nothing to fear, but you know, I'm worried more about living than dying. Living is more scary than dying.
Mhm.
All right,
To
Jayden.
quote William Wallace, every man dies. Not every man truly lives.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, next question I have is with the background in theater performance, how do you think those skills transfer to your roles as a coach and mentor?
I think that and question number one, what stands out or what turned around my coaching career? Actually, the first question was what stands out, but what
Right.
turned around my coaching career was in fact my degree in theater performance. In fact, I would suggest as a coach, any kind of behavior, whether you see me quiet or whether you see me just go straight old school on a referee or whatever, 90% to 95% of that is staged. Because
Okay.
yeah, and you'll see it. I'll go to a ref. I'm like, you see this right here? Yeah, this is us, right? Yeah. I've literally like I have some cash right here. I'm like, look, whatever the other team's paying you, I got, this is all I got. I'll give you the rest later, right? So there'll be some things where I get people to laugh or I'll get people angry, but theater really taught me how to know the situation. Now you as an active volleyball player, right?
Mhm.
You could get into it with a referee, right? And then the next play, if your team gets aced, you might think it has nothing to do with you, but it was you, right? And you might be like, oh my God, really? You're gonna get ace because of that? No, but so it's about knowing your team, right?
Mhm.
I had a team where I played a game because NCAA used to be to 30. I had a team where I got a red card at 27-24, gave them 28, and we still won because I knew my team that would fire them up.
Mhm.
Dane Blanton got a red card, for delay of game in the Olympic semifinals, right? And if he told me if he didn't get that red card, they wouldn't have won. They were down 11-10, and the red card gave him 12, and a side out gave him 15. So,
Mhm.
and what did he do? He went back there and he got 5 straight points: ace, ace, block, trans kill on a poke, and then ace. And I mean to position four, middle, and one. Yeah, he did the trifecta. So my degree in theater performance is instrumental to color commentary, instrumental. And everybody, any troll in the comments section, like, what makes you qualified? And I'll tell them my degree in theater performance, and they're just like, oh God, we're leaving. Get out of here with that. But it is how much as percentage wise, more than half.
Yeah.
Anyone can teach X's and O's. This game is not won. This game is won from the neck up.
Yeah.
And shamefully, a lot of coaches, they know that 50% of it or more is mental, and they don't actually teach mental in their process of preparation. And that is no more complaining. I'm just trying to answer the question. Whoops.
All right.
It
So,
hap-
what was the
it happened to
biggest
keep on the mic.
challenge? What was the biggest challenge and reward when you left a full-time job to pursue volleyball full-time in California?
There was no challenge because at that time, when my boss retired, I worked at Weill Cornell for 15 years. And my boss had already set me up for my career. He allowed me to leave early to coach NCAA games and make the trips. He allowed me to disappear during lunchtime for extra time to audition for
Ah,
some of these fantastic plays. I finished my education at Marymount Manhattan College, which is on 71st and 3rd for the New Yorkers, and I worked in a private practice on 72nd and Lexington. So it's one block away. So by the time he retired and by the time Cornell decided they didn't want me and a whole bunch of other people, which is only like an 8-person staff. So, I told myself, I'm never going to do a 9 to 5 again. I'm just going to coach. And if that doesn't fulfill my day, I'll coach 2 jobs. And there was really only a small difference in
ah.
salary and benefits. I actually, my wife at the time was working for BlackRock.
Oh,
And
yes. Okay.
and is now with the Capital Group. So I had her insurance plan. Also, the Veterans Administration in the Bronx and Manhattan, New York is fantastic,
Ah,
because Hospital for Special Surgery, they,
sure.
they were there for 15 hours a week. So and as an active volleyball player to have HSS with for free
Yeah.
I didn't have to pay for that. So the only challenge was stop feeling like you have to do something to make yourself feel like a man, right?
Ah, okay.
Because where I grew up, men work, and where I grew up, men, you don't quit your job unless you have a job. Like where I grew up, men, even if the woman worked, the men was equal to or more as far as financial sole source
Uh-huh.
of support. But when you have someone like my wife that works at BlackRock, uh, y- that's a mental battle I'm not going to win because
Right.
the three of us can have three jobs, right, around the clock and still not make that kind of money. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I
there's
have a pension. I have a pension waiting
right.
for me from Wild Cornell. I don't have to support my family, thanks to my beautiful, highly intelligent, skinny, make everybody jealous wife. And so my only challenge is I'll now finish with this, the last 10 seconds. Don't get caught up in the validation game. People don't know who you are. Don't be defensive and say, hey, screw you. I did this. I did that. So you know what happens? Because you know what happens? You become what you despise.
Mm.
You might feel good about yourself proving who you are, but you walk away with a bad taste in your mouth because you got sucked into the validation game.
All right.
I'm a
So
little too old for that.
you've
Yeah.
helped transform programs like LMU Beach and Endless Summers into
Right.
national contenders. What's your strategy for building successful teams and cultures in such competitive environments?
Wow, that's a question that I wish I saw that I would have been more prepared for. But uh, um, I self-examined when every program I went to turned around, right? Like
Okay.
Baruch College was seventh in their division, in their conference, in the worst conference in the NCAA. And we ended up going to the Final Four. City College, I got their first winning record in 9 years. John Jay, their first home playoff game uh,
Okay.
in the history of their program. Hunter High School,
Uh-huh.
38-1 record, won the PSALs. Madison Square Garden gave me Coach of the Year.
Yes.
So I already kind of came into LA thumping my chest. And
Okay.
but except it was beach. But I
Okay.
knew as an indoor coach, if you can take care of first hit, you can figure all this other out. Just, Squire, you have someone mentor you, and all of them are younger than me, right? Because you're going 45. Like, so Mayor had told me if I ever move to LA, come work with me as my either assistant coach or director of operations. So
Ah,
yeah, so I was the director of operations at LMU, and my job was to videotape every practice, videotape every game, and email him 5 things I like and 5 things I need to get better. And when you're a West Coast coach and everyone knows each other, and this guy with a Yankee
yeah.
hat comes out of nowhere and is like, "No, you need to fix this," you know, it's something the coaching staff had to warm up to because
Sure.
they 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 were interested in playing the validation game, and I wasn't. I don't, you know. Because it's really hard to concede that someone they never met had more coaching experience than them. I'm like,
Sure.
where did you coach? What? What do you mean? So Erin Mansfield was the indoor women's coach.
Uh-huh.
Betsy Flint, who was on the tour, she just had her second kid. So I was them. So me turning around programs is first, they have to know who's in charge. And if I'm the head coach, it's me. If I'm the assistant coach, I'm Jesus sending my message to God, right? So yeah. So as soon as they have your respect, you have their undivided attention. And when they have your undivided attention, volleyball, if you are what you say you are, right, superstar, uh,
Yeah.
um, that takes over.
Yeah.
That takes over.
All right, Jade, you better get your last two in.
Alrighty, so you describe yourself as being in your next evolution. What does that next chapter look like for you, whether in coaching, broadcasting, or another space?
Well, the thing about evolution by definition means slow grinding, inconvenience, why pride swallowing change for the better, right?
Mhm.
So making a better version of yourself and where your direction is, like, do I want to commentate at AVP or do I want to do someday the Olympics, right? Because as you start going to these higher levels, there's only fewer candidates, right?
Sure.
And my ego identity won't allow me to accept that, oh, there's so many other worthy candidates. And I'm like, no, they're not. They're not worthy. They're worthy, and then there's me, right? So, and it sounds conceited and it sounds self-serving, but again, my Brooklyn virtue makes me have to work harder, because if I don't, and everyone sees the braggadocio, right? It sticks out more. When you
Mhm.
fail, it sticks out more. So if you're able, and I would never recommend this to you or anyone, okay? Do not do what I'm doing. If you can take it, and if you can take that pressure, that constant pressure, um, yeah, good things come out of it. So I'm evolving. I'm eating a lot of humble pie, because you got to do that every day in Hermosa Beach. Even the great players, right? You got AVP champs that won't even, medal on the international stage. So this is the place where you have to know when to stick your chest out and whatever. So to answer your question, evolution's a good thing, but where it takes you at that point, some of the things happen on its own. I don't know where I'm going right now. I'm just having
Yeah.
a good time right now. I'm
All
honestly.
right, Jayden, last question.
So, as someone who's done it all, athlete, coach, commentator, military, theater, what advice would you give someone trying to find their path and passion?
Make sure nobody tells you, do not accept what people tell you what you can and can't do. You as a juniors player, you're lined up against the wall. They see your size. No, you'll never be a middle. You'll never be an outside hitter. You're too short and this and that. Do not accept what people tell you what you can and can't do. And don't let people tell you what you want. You have to tell you what you want. And sometimes you don't figure that until later, but the earlier you know what you want, the less people you accept. Like if your mom says you have to, you're an accountant. If
Mhm.
she keeps saying it, right? You might not find out you're not an accountant until your first year in college, and now you're like, oh my God, where do I go? Right? So don't let anybody tell you what you can and can't do. Realize if you're too short to be an outside hitter, and you know you have to jump higher, then know that you have to run 150 meters for the 100-meter dash. You
Yeah.
have to accept that. Um, and however that makes you feel, that's a real thing. I want you to feel that and get through that. But know that I don't like saying life is not fair. This is a terrible way to end the podcast. Life's not fair, you know. And, yeah, right. You remember the shirt I have? Nobody cares to work hard
Ocean, that's right.
before. So yeah, but the best advice I can give is don't read the reviews. Don't spend too much time reading the reviews. Find some people you trust. Find some people that believe in you. Tell a coach, say, I know I'm not equipped for this, but this is what I want to do. Can you help me or not?
Yeah. All right. So, very special thank you for Jason for sharing his incredible journey from the streets of New York to the sands of South Bay. Your passion for developing athletes and guiding their families shines through in everything you do. Your insights are invaluable through in everything, inspiring, helping shape confidence, resilient athletes on and off the court. We wish you continued success as you impact future generations through your coaching, commentary, and storytelling. But for our viewers, if you haven't yet tuned in to one of Jason's podcasts, you'll find him at NY Varsity Sports on Facebook and YouTube. Now,
And Spotify and iTunes, the audio
okay,
version is
Spotify
available on
and
all those.
iTunes.
Yeah.
All right, Jayden, remind us of how teachers, parents, recreational directors, and youth coaches can become a certified Go Kids youth sports skills trainer.
So, if you're passionate about teaching kids ages 10 and under, explore the Go Kids Youth Sports website to register as a host for your certification course. Early registration offers a special discount on your membership to RNN Sports Gym, including an 8-week training program, a one-on-one session with founder Ruth N. Nelson, and full access to the world's only 24/7 virtual online gym.
Wow. A huge thank you to our co host, Jayden, and a big shout out to all of our Go Kids youth sports skills trainers from Nebraska, Montana, Maryland, DC, and Texas. Stay connected with us on RNN Sports Gym. Like us, tag us, and share our stories to keep the energy going. Mark your calendars. We can't wait to see you May 14th at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time for our next In the Know series featuring another special guest. You won't want to miss it. And Jason, thank you very much again for being on this short show compared to our last encounter.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. I'd rather have a short one with you than a long one with me.